Hello, and welcome to Getting Going on Azure with Datagriff. And today we're going to be creating a policy to ensure we can only create resources in a specific location. Policies are a really cool feature in order to make sure that your subscriptions remain compliant. And I highly recommend looking into them from a governance point of view. But today we're just going to create a simple one to allow certain regions for our resources. So the first thing I want you to do is go to portal.azure.com. In the search bar at the top, type in policy, click policy, go to assignments on the left hand side, and then we're going to say assign policy, and our scope is going to be our entire subscription. We can change this to be resource group level or even upper level at the management group scope if we want it over all our subscriptions. Then for the policy definition, click the ellipses, and in search we're going to look for allowed location. There we go. Allowed locations. So we click that and select. So the policy definition is allowed locations. The assignment name is allowed locations. And we can have this policy being enabled. And we go to parameters. And the allowed regions, I would recommend picking somewhere close to yourself. And for me, it's going to be North Europe and West Europe. I picked the both of them because they're in a sort of paid region and they're both very useful to have. So North Europe and West Europe is where I'll allow resources. And you leave everything else as it is, or actually, sorry, non-compliance message. I'm going to say attempting to create resource that is not in North Europe or West Europe. So that should be a nice and clear message now if anyone tries to do anything against this policy. And click Review and Create. And I'm just going to check. Yep, it's allowed locations. The list of them is North Europe and West Europe. And I'm just going to click Create. So that's created a new assignment against the scope of my subscription. So what should happen now, if I attempt to create any resource that isn't in North Europe or West Europe, I should get a failure of deployment because this policy will not have been met. So what I'm going to do is attempt to create a storage account. So in the search bar at the top, I'm going to search for storage. Storage accounts, I'm going to click Create. And I'm going to create it in this subscription that I've applied my policy on. I'm going to create a new resource group and I'm going to call it Test Policy RG. And click OK. Storage account name, I'm going to call it Test Policy SA for storage account, and then postfix with my name to make sure it's unique. Then for the location, I'm going to leave it in Central US because that should invalidate my policy of North Europe or West Europe. I'm going to leave all of the other defaults as they are, so I'm not going to change networking, data protection, advanced or tags. I'm going to go straight to Review and Create. So it's running the validation. So it passes validation, but let's see what happens when I click Create. And there you go. The deployment has immediately failed. And if I click here for details, over on the right hand side, I can see that my storage account, test policy Griff, was not allowed by the policy. And the reasons is I'm attempting to create a resource that is not in North Europe or West Europe. So this is exactly what we wanted. And this is a really powerful feature of policies. So what we're going to do now is go back to our test policy resource group. We're going to click Add. And we're again going to try and make a storage account. So we're going to create. We're going to create it in our test policy resource group that we have created. We're going to call it the same name, so test policy SA, and I'm going to postfix it with Griff. In fact, I'm going to put in the region shortcode, which is EUN before Griff, and this time I am going to make it in an allowed region according to my policy, which is North Europe. I'm going to leave everything else defaulted as it is. So I'm going to go Review and Create. Validation has passed. I click Create. So this time it hasn't immediately failed and my deployment is in progress, which will take a few moments. Awesome, the deployment is completed because our policy has been met. So we can go to the resource and we can see that this is actually North Europe and West Europe because of the read access geo-redundancy that we selected. So that's how you can create a policy and ensure that those policies are met. And what we're going to do now, because we finished with our demo, we're going to go back up to our resource group. We're going to copy the name of our resource group and we're just going to remove it. So delete resource group, type the resource group name and delete. And just in case it impacts anything else, we're also going to remove a policy for now, as this is just a demo. So we're going to go back to policy. We're going to go to assignments. And for our allowed locations assignment, we're going to click the ellipses on the right. And we're just going to say delete assignment. And we're going to say yes. So that's cleaned up all the work we've done for our demo. So hopefully you can see the policies are really, really powerful. I recommend you go and have a look at all the other ones that you can use. They're very, very good for governing your estate and making sure certain rules are adhered to. So I hope you've enjoyed that on Getting Going on Azure with Datagriff, and I'll see you next time.